If you're funding a health savings account, you actually have some flexibility as to the timing of when you make that contribution. However, I strongly recommend always contributing at a certain time. I'll explain that and why coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. If you have a qualifying high deductible health plan, then you are able to, you're not forced to, but you're able to make a contribution to a health savings account. And if you do, my goodness, this is an incredible tax tool, gives you the trifecta of tax benefits, the only thing in the tax code that allows your contributions to go in pre-tax, so they help you on your taxes today. All the interest earned and growth of the account is all tax sheltered, so it doesn't land on your tax return. And since we're actually seeing, banks and CDs, savings accounts, money markets paying interest, you're now feeling that how that works on your for your regular bank account, right? That interest that you're earning is landing on your tax return, and that's creating a little bit of havoc on your tax return. And so with an HSA, nope, it's all sheltered. And then as you draw dollars out of your HSA for qualifying medical expenses, then it avoids tax on the way out. So that trifecta, that makes it very, very unusual and a pretty advantageous tax tool. So here's the question. When should you contribute to your HSA? Does it really matter? I would argue it very much matters for a different reason than what you might otherwise think. Make sure that you contribute as much as you possibly can that's appropriate for your financial situation. In 2024, as an individual on the high deductible health plan, you can contribute up to $4,150 into your HSA. As a family, you can contribute $8,300. An additional $1,000 if you're age 55 or older. And so those numbers make sense for 2025, by the way, since at the time I'm recording this, we're getting close to the new year. Those contribution amounts increased to $4,300 for an individual and $8,550 for a family. That makes no sense. Why wouldn't you just make the family contribution limit double what the individual is? It doesn't make sense. But those are contribution limits. You are allowed to contribute to a health savings account from January 1 all the way until April 15th of the following year, or the tax filing deadline, whether that's the 16th or 18th or the 15th. So you've got until January 1 to 12/31, but then even beyond that, all the way up to April 15. So when should you contribute? I strongly recommend, and I'll give you 3 reasons why, contribute during the calendar year. Don't contribute unless you absolutely have to. Don't contribute between January 1 and April 15 of the next year. And yes, IRA contributions, Roth IRA contributions, you have that same window from January 1 all the way until April 15 of the following year. And I don't stress this for when you're funding a Roth IRA or an IRA. But when you're funding an HSA, I strongly recommend that you contribute during the calendar year. And only if you absolutely have to, only if it's necessary, would you contribute between January 1 and April 15 of the next year. Here's why. When you are contributing to an IRA or Roth IRA, all of the infrastructure is set up such that when you're making that contribution the following year between January 1 and April 15, there is a question whether you're making this contribution online or whether you're doing it with a financial advisor. There is a prompt where they're going to say, what year are you making this contribution for? And that's going to prompt you to say, yep, I'm making it for last year. So pretend that you're funding your Roth IRA on February 15 of 2025. There will be a question, or there will be a drop down if you're doing it online. What tax year are you making this contribution for? And you can say, oh yeah, I'm actually making this contribution for 2024. And you're all set. With an HSA, there are just so many ways to make a contribution to your HSA. The infrastructure is not in place for that catch to be made. Wait a second, it's February 15. What tax year are you making this contribution for? It is hit or miss whether the bank teller is going to ask you what year. If you're just transferring money online, I haven't seen it. If your HSA is at an investment institution, not just a bank, they probably have the question, what tax year is this for? But if it's just at a bank, I haven't seen it, guys. There's the infrastructure, the question of what tax year is this for is just not there. And if you make a contribution in the calendar year of next calendar year, but you're doing it for the previous tax year, if the bank doesn't record it right, or if it's not clear that nope, this is for the previous year, it is going to create an enormous mess. You'd think, well, no, there's going to be a tax form. Yeah, 5498-SA. Do you want to know when those are sent out? In June. Yep, in June. So it's not going to help you. If you make a contribution during the calendar year, a 5498-SA should be sent out by the end of January. It should be, and that would include all your contributions and all your distributions during the calendar year. But if you make a contribution between January 1st and April 15 of the next year, you just have to make sure that the bank coded it correctly. Guys, we have heard from clients, even if they tell the teller at the bank, this is for last year, there's no assurance that you have that the teller actually made that note and captured that detail. Even if the teller did, there's no assurance that the bank somehow doesn't make a mistake and actually mistakenly counts it for that calendar year because the contribution was that calendar year, not the previous tax year. Guys, we have just seen so many messes with this that I would just strongly encourage you, make the contribution to your HSA in that calendar year. If this gets messed up, then you've claimed a deduction on the front page of your tax return that there's no offsetting tax form from that financial institution saying that you actually made that contribution. So you could get a notice, and then you'd have to argue with the bank and with the IRS to say, nope, I did get this deduction. If for some reason the IRS just lets you have the deduction and there is no notice, well then when you fund it for the next year, your HSA for the next year, now you're at risk of over contributing because they've counted some of your previous year contribution as the current year, and then you're going to do another current year, and now you're at risk of overfunding. That's probably been the messiest of these when the IRS has allowed the deduction, when we put it on for the right calendar or for the right tax year, but then in the next year, that's where it's caught, and you say, oh no, wait a second, now we're well past the fact, almost 2 years past the fact, and you've got to clean up and sort of retroactively fix this with the IRS. It's a huge mess. If you can, just contribute to your HSA during the calendar year. Everything will be neat and tidy. So that's the primary reason, and I can't stress it enough. You can hear the urgency in my voice simply because we've just seen this become so messy for so many people. That's the primary reason we love contributing to the HSA during the calendar year. The second reason is there's actually two ways to contribute to your HSA. The way that we've been talking about is where you're just funding out of pocket, where you're transferring money from your checking account or money that's already been taxed, that's landed in your hands. You contribute that to your HSA and you get a deduction on the front page. That's actually not our favorite way to contribute to the HSA. Our favorite way to contribute to the HSA is directly out of payroll. When you contribute directly out of payroll, not only is it a deduction on your taxes for federal and state taxes, but you're also saving FICA tax on it as well. And the dollars come right out of your paycheck. They're contributed directly to your HSA. It's all reconciled on your W-2, and it's all made during that calendar year. That gives you an additional tax benefit, but it also keeps the records clean as well. That's the second reason we like funding the HSA during the calendar year. And then the third reason is, what if you have a major medical expense in that first quarter? So if you didn't contribute to the HSA during the calendar quarter, but you've got the resources to do so, and I'll get to it eventually, and then all of a sudden there's a health emergency, and someone breaks their arm, someone has an issue, and all of a sudden you've got a major medical expense that you want to fund from your HSA, but you haven't put enough money in there yet. Now, potentially in an emergency at a time when this is the last thing on your mind, you've then got to take the money that's sitting in your savings account, fund it, throw it into your HSA very quickly, and then pull it out of the HSA to make the expense. I've seen people forget that step. I've seen people do that step, but then forget to communicate what tax year when they make that contribution, and then all of a sudden we're back to that mess that I suggested you avoid in the first point as well. So yes, you have some flexibility in both how you can contribute to your HSA, but also the timing in which you can contribute to your HSA. But guys, for those reasons and more, I strongly recommend make the HSA contribution during the calendar year. Fund it as much as possible out of payroll. But if you can't do that, or you're not able to max it out through that, set a reminder for yourself right after Christmas or middle of December, go fund your HSA and make sure it doesn't spill over to the next calendar year and avoid all the potential mess. Work with your certified financial planner on how to leverage and use the HSA for its fullest potential in your financial life. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.